Does it bother you that your audience is predominantly male? Isn't that a bit divisive?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's no more divisive than the fact that YouTube is primarily male and Tumblr is primarily female.
Isn't it?
Tumblr is primarily female.
But you're just saying that's the way it is.
Well, I'm not saying anything. It's just an observation that that's the way it is. There's plenty of women that are watching my lectures and coming to my talks and buying my books. It's just that the majority of them happen to be men.
What's in it for the women, though?
Well, what sort of partner do you want? Do you want an overgrown child? Or do you want someone to contend with that's going to help you and that
so
you
you're
can
saying
rely on?
Women have some sort of duty to sort of help fix the crisis of masculinity.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson, you've said that men need to, quote, grow the hell up. Tell me why.
Well, because there's nothing uglier than an old infant. There's nothing good about it. People who don't grow up don't find the sort of meaning in their life that sustains them through difficult times, and they are certain to encounter difficult times. And they're left bitter and resentful and without purpose and adrift and hostile and resentful and vengeful and arrogant and deceitful and of no use to themselves and of no use to anyone else and no partner for a woman, and there's nothing in it that's good.
So you say, I mean, that sounds pretty bad. You're saying there's a crisis of masculinity? I mean, what do you do about it?
You help people understand why it's necessary and important for them to grow up and adopt responsibility. Why that isn't a shake your finger and get your act together sort of thing. Why it's more like a delineation of the kind of destiny that makes life worth living. I've been telling young men, but it's not. I wasn't specifically aiming this message at young men to begin with.
And I think that's where Jordan Peterson fills in the gap, where for so many of us, our fathers didn't give us these life lessons, whether it's life encouragement. He's telling us as men to get on our shit, to get on our purpose, to find something we can work on and getting, like a meaning in life where you feel responsible, useful to society. And some of you guys are going to be like, oh, I have a job and that's it. No, it's beyond that. You as a man, you have a calling. I don't care what it is. For me, maybe whether it's YouTube, talking through my experiences or reviewing stuff and sharing my experiences, my opinions. I also love the gym, so that could be working out or training others. And I am just so happy and grateful for a man like Jordan Peterson, because you guys, if you're being honest, so many of us, our fathers didn't talk to us like this. They didn't encourage us. They didn't tell us why we should be masculine, or they didn't tell us why we should have a purpose in life. Most of our fathers just went to work, paid our school fees, bought food at home, and that was it. They never had these deep conversations with us.
But it just kind of turned out that way.
And it's mostly, you admit, it's mostly men listening. I mean, 90% of your audiences are men.
Well, it's about 80% on YouTube, YouTube is a male domain primarily. So it's hard to tell how much of it is because YouTube is male and how much of it is because of what I'm saying. But what I've been telling young men is that there's an actual reason why they need to grow up, which is that they have something to offer, that people have within them this capacity to set the world straight, and that's necessary to manifest in the world, and that also doing so is where you find the meaning that sustains you in life.
So what's gone wrong then?
Oh God, all sorts of things have gone wrong. I don't think that young men hear words of encouragement. Some of them never in their entire lives, as far as I can tell. That's what they tell me. And the fact that the words that I've been speaking, the YouTube lectures that I've done and put online, for example, have had such a dramatic impact is an indication that young men are starving for this sort of message, because why in the world would they have to derive it from a lecture on YouTube?
That's true. That's literally what I just said. Most of our fathers didn't give us words of encouragement. And I know there's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 guys in the comments talking about, well, my father did this, my father gave me words of encouragement. But most of the fathers who raised us, and even in this generation, very few encourages. because they also didn't have anyone to encourage them. So they wouldn't learn that from anywhere, right? To pour into somebody, you gotta have something left to pour, to share with somebody else. But if their fathers, which are our grandfathers, also didn't pour into our fathers, so they got nothing to pour into us. So it's true, most of the men these days are not encouraged. You know, people are easily criticize men before they encourage them.
No, they're not being taught that it's important to develop yourself.
Yep.
But does it bother you that your audience is predominantly male? Isn't that a bit divisive?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's no more divisive than the fact that YouTube is primarily male and Tumblr is
Well, that's
primarily
pretty divisive,
female.
isn't
Well,
it?
but Tumblr is primarily female.
Right, you're just saying that's the way it is.
Well, I'm not saying anything.
I think she's trying to get a gotcha moment on Jordan Peterson, because his message resonates with men, so she's wondering why it doesn't resonate with women. She's trying to get to catch him, right? But I don't think she's going to, because he's very smart.
It's just an observation that that's the way it is. There's plenty of women that are watching my lectures and coming to my talks and buying my books. It's just that the majority of them happen to be men.
What's in it for the women, though?
Well, what sort of partner do you want? Do you want an overgrown child? Or do you want someone to contend with that's going to help you and that
So
you
you're
can
saying
rely on?
women have some sort of duty to sort of help fix the crisis of masculinity?
It depends on what they want. No.
They definitely have a duty, because women raise the men, the mothers. And for me, one of the duties would be, as a mother, you should probably, instead of using the family court system to keep the son away from the father, maybe you should create an environment where the son interacts more with the father, so the father can guide him, or maybe discipline him when that son is not listening to you. Because as boys grow up, they stop listening to their mothers. They test them, because puberty and teenage years are very tough. So the boys grow way bigger and taller than their moms, and they stop listening. But that's when the father comes in. So definitely women have a duty in raising a good generation of men, because they are the first line of defense. Mothers and then the fathers come in.
I mean, it's exactly how I laid it out. Like, women deeply want men who are competent and powerful. And I don't mean power in that they can exert tyrannical control over others. That's not power. That's just corruption. Power is competence. And why in the world would you not want a competent partner? Well, I know why, actually. You can't dominate a competent partner. So
you're
if you
saying
want
women
domination...
want to dominate, is that what you're saying?
No, I'd say women who have had their relationships their relationships with men impaired, and who are afraid of such relationships, will settle for a weak partner because they can dominate them. But it's a suboptimal solution.
Do you think that's what a lot of women are doing?
I think there's a substantial minority of women who do that. And I think it's very bad for them. They're very unhappy. It's very bad for their partners, although the partners get the advantage of not having to take any responsibility.
I agree. Because sometimes women say they want to take the lead, or they want to make decisions, but from the get-go, when a man meets a woman, she expects you to, first of all, ask her out, make the date plans, choose the place, pay for the first date. That's you taking the lead. Now, once in a while, maybe you might meet a woman who may hit on you, call you, set up the date. By the end of the day, like Jordan Peterson said, she's just settling for a weak man. If she's the one calling you and trying to set up the date and everything and paying for the first date, she's going to resent you at the end of the day at some point.
But what gives you the right to say that? I mean, maybe that's how women want their relationships, those women. I mean, you're making these vast generalizations.
I'm a clinical psychologist.
Right, so you're saying you've done your research and women are unhappy dominating men.
I
didn't say they were unhappy dominating men. I said...
Eventually, they're going to be happy. They're going to resent you as a man. If any woman who has to tell her man what to do, to get up, go to work, to do this, to plan this, to do this, everything, she's gonna resent the guy because he doesn't get it. Eventually, even if she likes it, to pay the bills, eventually she's gonna be like, you know what, this guy is just leeching off me. Why am I paying all the bills? Right? Why am I planning all our vacations? Why am I choosing our house? Eventually she's gonna resent you.
It was a bad long-term solution.
Okay, you said it was
It's not the
making them
same
miserable.
thing. Yes, it is. And it depends on the time frame. I mean, there's intense pleasure in momentary domination. That's why people do it all the time. But it's no formula for a successful long-term relationship. That's reciprocal, right? Any long-term relationship is reciprocal, virtually by definition. So
Let me put a quote to you from the
Sure.
book, where you say there are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern stroke neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
minorities too dominate and exclude
Okay, sure.
minorities and women.
But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's
So
just
you
not
do,
true,
you-
is it?
That's
I mean, that
absolutely
9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings
Yeah.
between men and women.
But there's
that
multiple.
exists.
Yeah, but there's multiple.
Yeah, but I think that doesn't matter. They've shown the studies, and that doesn't account for the type of job, the hours worked, how dangerous the job is, right? Because a nurse is definitely going to make more than a man who's working in a retail job, right? And a nurse who's more experienced is definitely going to make more than a female nurse is going to make more than a male nurse who's just junior and she has more experience. So the gender pay gap virtually disappears when everything is considered.